The contents of this show are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Any information on the show does not create a client-therapist relationship and should not be taken as professional advice. Before making any decisions regarding your healthcare, ask your personal physician or mental health care professional, or call 911 for any emergencies.
We are three friends exploring connection, from the coffee shop to the podcast studio. I'm Amy.
I'm Anna.
I'm Erin.
You want to get out of debt? I can help you get out of debt so fast. So get yourself hooked up with the Debt-Free Roadmap, and it will walk you through all the steps I want to help you get to where you want to be. Debtfreeroadmap.com.
I mean, I would say that there was so much value in our conversation with Katie Garces.
Yeah.
Yes.
And her whole thing about the health of mind, body, spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And what I really respect about her is her openness to exploration.
Yep.
And then her ability to share it with others.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I have been thinking nonstop about this idea of intuitive eating.
Really?
It is so completely foreign to every other thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm going to be eating good or I'm going to be eating bad.
Yeah.
And this idea of intuitive eating, where you actually listen to your body and if it's hungry and what it wants,
Yeah.
is so...
Yes.
It's crazy how foreign that is, and also how sad that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. How sad that it's foreign.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, like, even just considering it, since you mentioned it last week,
Yeah.
it's like I've been considering the idea, just testing it out of, like, what would it look like if, and I did some research on Katie's site, katiegarces.com, and just looking up intuitive eating and what are the, like, how does this work? What is this like?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of foods not being good or bad, quote unquote, right? Like, is so freeing.
Yeah.
Like, and I was thinking, how have I not heard about this before? Because, like, I've always, I'm all about, like, okay, I'm going to do this diet now. This is going to be the one that's going to be the key.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be the one that's not, like, a huge hassle or hard, or this is going to be my true lifestyle change, right? But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this today.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before we get into it,
Yes.
we've got an awesome review. Love these.
Good.
This one is called Girl Power.
Hey.
5 stars from Marvelous Ms. M.
Oh, good
Isn't that
name.
great?
Yeah.
And, quote, I really enjoyed listening to this new podcast. I felt like I was there with them, taking part of the conversation. I actually laughed out loud while listening to them. I could relate to the topics they discussed.
Awesome.
Yeah, Marvelous Ms.
Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you.
them coming.
Yeah.
Love hearing from you. Okay, so intuitive eating. Anna, we know you have been
I'm fired up.
You're fired
thinking
up.
about this. You're fired up. You want to just, so it sounds
Yeah.
like you have done some online research, or what's been your, like, ever since you first learned about this from last week, what'd you find?
Well, I mean, so I've been considering the idea of what this would look like in my life, right? And I started thinking, why have I not heard about this or been, aware of this idea
Mm-hmm.
like ever? And what I came to realize is that I think that things come into our life when we're ready to hear them or ready to
Yes.
look at them. So had it might have crossed my path at some point, but there is no way I would have ever even considered it as a possibility if it meant that I might become fat.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
No, it might happen.
Yeah.
Like, that's an option.
Oh, okay.
Like, so with this intuitive eating idea is that you also accept your body for what it is.
Say more about that.
Yeah. So this is something that I wouldn't even have let myself consider in the past, which is why if I had heard of it, I would have knocked it off of any sort of possibility of trying it out. So the idea is that you essentially reject diet culture, and there's this whole deprogramming piece that happens where you say foods, like I mentioned earlier, foods aren't good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And all the rules about like, oh, I can't have carbs or I can't eat sweets. Like those are thrown out. Like you listen to your body, you listen to its cues, and then you act accordingly. So that also incorporates the idea of accepting your body for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea of this incorporating joyful movement. So like what Sadie Lincoln talked about.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah. So it's like completely like accepting your body for what it is and nourishing it and giving it what it needs and listening to it. And it's like a complete rejection of diet culture.
So when you were reading that, what was happening internally when you were reading this? And part of it feels good for you and part of it feels like, ooh.
Yeah. So
what was happening?
It's kind of scary because like, so when I was pregnant with my son, I gained 45 pounds. And that was when I was like, when I first got pregnant, I was vegetarian and I started eating meat because I was like, oh gosh, my body is asking for it. So I feel like when I was pregnant, in a lot of ways, I let myself do this. I was like, what does my body need? What is my body asking for? And I feel like I was like off the rails, like I'm going to eat whatever I want. And that is such a scary place for me because as much as I want to accept my body for what it is, the reality is I have a super hard time with that. I have a history of eating disorders and, of trying every single diet. So it's very scary to think like that I would, quote unquote, let myself go or be bad and like eat
or not
whatever I
follow
want.
rules.
Yeah, like what would that look like? So part of me is like, oh my gosh, this is so freeing. Like the weight of having to always think, what the hell am I going to eat? Is this good? Is this bad? Oh my gosh, I feel so bad about eating this thing I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Now I have to go work out. Oh, I don't want to do
so much energy.
It's like the shame spiral.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So much
So
energy.
like just even trying this out of like, oh gosh, I want to have like freaking coffee cake for dinner.
Yeah.
like that idea of like, oh, I guess I could,
Yeah.
or even like
pita chips and hummus for breakfast.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's
delicious.
like, this is what I am wanting right now. This is what my body's asking for. It's a scary thing to consider. It's also incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, it really makes me realize how much time I have been thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mentioned in the past episode of the episode, Our Bodies, Our Fine-Ass Selves, it's like, this is something that I've been struggling with for so long to like take that off of my plate, that obsession.
Yeah.
Off my plate, no pun intended. Like, it's so freeing.
Can we talk
It's
about
scary.
the 10 principles of it so people that were listening can kind of know where we are?
Good.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so this is from intuitiveeating.org, and it's the 10...
Can we say who created this?
Yeah.
So these are the original intuitive eating pros from their website, intuitiveeating.org.
Evelyn Triboli, and it looks like she's got an MS, an RDN, and some other
letters
after her name. And then Elise Reish, and also a lot of letters after her name. So
they are very impressive. I have no idea what those mean.
Yeah.
But there's a lot
so they
of them,
started this.
Yeah.
And they have 10 principles.
So they've got 10 principles of intuitive eating. Number 1, reject the diet mentality. Number 2, honor your hunger. Number 3, make peace with food. Number 4, challenge the food police. Number 5, respect your fullness. Number 6, discover the satisfaction factor. Number 7, honor your feelings without using food. Number 8, respect your body. Number 9, exercise, feel the difference. Number 10, honor your health.
And so when I hear those, it's interesting because I feel like this is where our society runs into issues because we are so mind over matter, and it's not necessarily in the way to wholeness or to healing is to incorporate the body and the mind together, and the spirit for that matter. Katie talked a lot about that as well.
Right.
And so when you're listening, like you can't honor, like challenge the food police unless you know what's happening internally, and then you can't discover a satisfaction factor or respect your fullness unless you're in touch with your body. And I think, Anna, to your point, like it's scary because we are not taught that if we like want chocolate chip cookies, that since we deprive ourselves all the time, then we're going to eat 10 of them. But like, fact is, I think that, and she was even talking about that, if that you eat 10 cookies, probably that's not going to make you feel very good. And so it's like when I go hog jaws on ranch dip.
Covered almonds.
No. Well, yeah, that was bad news bears with ranch dip and Ruffles potato chips. It is, I can't, it's my kryptonite.
Hog jaws.
It's
Honestly, that sounds so good.
But I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But
after the whole bag.
not quite the whole bag. My sister and my nephew share, and then I'm like, oh, look how much they ate. Like, it's me. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So like just testing this out this last week.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I've struggled with the most, I mean, apart from this whole idea, I've struggled with this, deprogramming idea, but the respect your fullness. That's really been very hard. And it's like,
what's been hard about it?
Well, so like, for example, we went to a fast food place that we don't usually eat fast food. And I was like, I ended up leaving like a quarter of my sandwich because I was like, well, I'm full. I'm going to stop, which was definitely different. Normally I would be like, I'm just going to finish it because it's only a quarter of it left. Right. So that was very interesting to notice. And then the fries, these great waffle fries, I knew if I saved them for later, they would not be nearly as good.
No.
Yeah. Like they just reheat them. Good. It's like, okay, well, I have to be okay with wasting this food and not enjoying it now. And it was like, I noticed that kept coming up. It was like, it's not going to be as fresh or good as good later.
Yeah. And so you need to eat it now? Is that what was going through your head? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard to then respect the fullness.
Yeah. And it was like, actually, I'm full, but I want to keep eating because I'm enjoying it for what it is. Another thing that came up is in doing research about this idea of this intuitive or mindful eating is I ran across someone had done have you heard of these like food journal logs? Like they write down like what they eat or what I ate in a day. So there was a twist on it from an intuitive eater, and they had a why I ate what I did journal.
Oh,
and it
was interesting.
Up level.
Yeah.
That is an
So
up
you
level.
wouldn't write down what you ate at all, just why?
No, you would. You'd say like, I
Okay.
ate cake for breakfast because I wanted to eat cake for breakfast and I was hungry and I stopped when I had enough cake. And then I had, protein. I had 2 hard-boiled eggs 10 minutes later because I was hungry.
Yeah.
It's interesting because because I have to intuitively eat when I'm on these really long runs.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is sugar because it all goes through, and I get tired of eating because I have to eat so much while I'm running. And on those runs, it's all straight sugar. So I can eat gummy bears. I can eat potato chips. I can eat whatever the things are because you're out there for so long and your body needs this. But after I'm done, that is the last stuff that I want. Like when I'm training, I generally don't want to eat sugar outside of when my runs are because I get tired of it, which is, I think, like goes to this whole thing. Yeah. So
I think it's super interesting. My experience with it, so probably 5 years ago or around then, I was doing CrossFit and I was doing I was just super active and really pushing my physical body.
I think, was that around when I first met you?
Yeah.
Because I think we first connected over CrossFit, and it was
really?
it was like, you too? Yeah. It was like, wait, you did CrossFit?
Yes.
And it was like, I think we even had the conversation of like, I love how intense it is.
Totally.
It's so intense.
I miss the barbell.
I do too.
That's what I think about the most.
Yes.
Just barbell.
Yes. Okay, we need to go lift some heavy ass weight.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Can I be there for that?
Oh, yeah. You could take us a video. Maybe Anna will throw in some twerking.
Yeah, for you. For you,
me.
Erin.
Hopefully.
I'll practice a little bit.
Okay, so anyway, about 5 years ago, I was into CrossFit and I was really frustrated because for me, my relationship with my body and eating has been so tied to my goal number, my goal, my weight goal. And I feel like I have always felt like, if I could get back to that old high school number, which is ridiculous. But then it's also
the 2 babies you had in high school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was, she didn't have 2 babies.
No, I didn't.
But that was just never mind. Yep.
Yeah. Like 2 babies later, anyway, all kinds of stuff. But anyway, but I feel like that number has just been like, that's what's taken a ton of my energy.
Yeah.
And then I have tried everything out there, I feel like. So during this CrossFit time, I went and saw a nutritionist. No surprise. I've seen my fair share. And this one, I had like a 3 or 5 session package with her. And her whole thing was like, there is no more good or bad food. And I was like, what? And she said, no, like no more good or bad food. But with that particular nutritionist, there wasn't the whole like the deeper level of intuitive, I feel like, tied in there. So it was kind of like nothing is good or bad. Just listen to what you want. And like that was it. And then she gave me examples of healthy snacks and, like all this stuff and, different plates. So it was more like traditional nutrition where it was like that picture of a plate and what should be filled up with percentages. Anyway, I went gangbusters on that because I was like, sweet, eat what you want. And she was also like, with the amount that you're exercising, like you kind of should be able to eat whatever you want. But so
it's
for
like,
me,
that's a green light.
Yeah. And so I took it and I ate whatever I wanted. And so it was like carb heavy, sugar, just whatever. And again, that number for me, it just like ballooned and I was super bummed again. So then I like swung my pendulum to the other side, 0 carb, paleo, blah, blah, blah. And I just feel like that's been like the story of not only my type of eating, but also my number on the scale. And so I think it's super interesting to hear about intuitive eating with the idea that like, yeah, food is not good or bad, but then to add on like how important that is the part of like, one, how do you listen to your body? Not only is it about what you want, but then it's like you need to respect fullness. You need to like, or it's important to, understand what satisfaction is.
I think there's a pro tip here is that someone once told me is that when you're eating and the moment that you take like some course after you started eating and you take a breath, that's generally when you're full. Like when you notice like, then that's usually when you're full. Like you're breathing the whole time. But I mean like when you take like a deep breath, your first deep breath is generally like cutoff point. Yeah.
Well, and also like the speed at which you eat your food has a big impact on like whether or not you can, kind of respect your full factor or whatever. Or I think maybe the ease of that.
Yeah. And also like paying attention to not having distractions. That's one of the like recommendations.
That's right.
Is to like be very mindful when you're eating so that you can pay attention to those cues.
Yeah. Well, and I think about European culture and how you never see people like walking around with a coffee cup in their hand, let alone like a burger or fries or like a meal.
Yes.
But like in America, obviously it's so common. Everybody's always on the run, eating on the run, drinking on the run, like just like quick, fast. And it's so different in Europe.
I think for me, what's been with all this stuff is the density of my food. Like, do I need to eat something heavier? So do I need to eat like a pasta or a rice or something heavier? Or do I need like salad or whatever based on how I'm feeling? And so that's intuitively, that's helped me a lot recently.
And you do not eat meat, right?
Yes. I do not eat meat.
So, because when I think of density, I think of
meat is dense.
Meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting to think.
But like, I can eat like a Beyond Meat burger, which isn't super awesome for you. But like if I need something like that.
Yeah.
But generally it's like heavier food. So do I want to eat something like rice based or do I need like a soup or do I need a salad of some sort?
Yeah. It's a really interesting way of thinking. I also think about, I have done a ton of food journals, calorie counting, points counting. You name it. Grams of protein counting. Yeah. It's just
macros.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you think about this and it's not about counting at all.
No. Yeah, it's like that is the point. It's like throughout this research I've done on it, it's like if you're manipulating what you're eating with the idea that the result will be you losing weight, then it turns into a diet. And so this idea of connection with your intuition so that you can in turn connect to your body and have like a healthier relationship, like that is so foreign and it makes me so sad. Like
And-
all the time I've like wasted
Yes.
all the mental energy.
It's so much energy.
It really
It's
is.
crazy. And you know what it makes me think about? So, I did the spending fast. I got out of close to $24,000 in debt. And so what I did with that is I stepped out of that cycle of obsessing about what I will or will not buy by saying, these are the acceptable things. These are the not acceptable things, by creating the wants and needs list. And with this, it's like, okay, I'm going to step out of this diet culture. I'm stepping out of the cycle. I'm taking my
Are you
power
saying this?
back.
You're doing this right now?
I'm saying I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
It's like very, very empowering to consider the idea of stepping out of the cycle of diet culture and like connecting to my intuition and what my body is telling me. And like, again, ever since, Katie brought this up on the podcast, it's like I've been noticing how much of diet culture is around. Like, this is good, this is bad.
Billions of dollars industry.
It's crazy. It's all
crazy.
over Instagram. It's like, I've said before on the podcast that my body is like, it's everything else has kind of taken priority with my like therapy and things I've worked on. And it's like to get to the point in my life where this is the thing I'm focusing on right now. It's like so much, like realizing how much of my self-worth is tied to my body image and my weight. And then to like with this idea, say, you know what, I'm going to step out of that cycle.
Rebel.
Totally.
I'm like, ooh,
that's a challenge.
That's a challenge.
Challenge for the rebel.
Yeah, yeah. But it's wild to just be like, wow, I can get my mental space back.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like to do plant-based eating, because dairy doesn't always feel super great in my body. I don't really like meat. And so within those parameters, which is a lot of food, like then I can just kind of eat what I want within that. And and I feel a lot of like freedom. Like, what do I want? Do I want spinach or do I want some sort of like
potato?
Something? Yeah. Well, potato. Yeah. I always want potatoes.
Yeah.
I love potatoes so much.
so
I can't.
good.
Oh, it's so good.
They're super versatile too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. So good.
I need to make you these. Nora cooks vegan. She's this lady that I follow, and she has this scallop potato recipe.
Oh, yeah.
You told me about
Oh, my
this.
God. I need to make it for you, too. And there's this chickpea meatloaf. Well, quote, meatloaf. And it is so good. And I'm going to have you all over for that. And
I will take you up on that.
I'll cook for
when
you.
are we coming over?
Well,
I know.
Whenever you want.
So here's something I find interesting. In the last few months for me, I have lost a significant amount of weight. Probably a little like too much too fast, but that just has to do with a high stress time in my life. And it's been interesting for me to think about, though, in terms of, I also have spent so much energy on food and diet and eating and feeding my family and it just goes on and on and on. And it's interesting because food has completely taken a back seat.
Yeah.
And for me, and like I haven't even, nothing. Like I really haven't even thought about it. But at the same time, I honestly feel, I feel lighter, just like physically, but I don't know how much I weigh right now. I haven't stepped on I've only stepped on my numberless scale, which I love. Thank you, Shapa. But I don't really know, like, I just haven't put energy at all into
What's
food.
that been like?
Because before all that happened, you were like, sugar was the thing.
Exactly. I was like, at one point I was like texting you because I was trying to do like no sugar challenge.
No sugar, that would be the check-in daily every night.
And I would check in.
How we do? I haven't heard from her for a while. Hey.
Weren't we supposed to be doing some check-in thing?
Yes.
We're not doing it.
This is like the story of my life, It's like, but it's completely taken a back seat.
Well, I remember you saying something about just recently about like nachos and how, or like pizza and like how it used to be like such a bad thing. Like, ooh, are we going to do this or not?
Yeah.
Like,
and I've also had like my fair share of like digestive, just upsets or issues or whatever. And I feel like it's been very interesting because like, I haven't thought at all about food. I'm eating whatever I want, but I'm really like not thinking about it. So I'm not like wanting a lot of food. And I also have not had any rules. Like nothing is yes or no. It's just been like, what's in front of me, what's available. Am I able to eat it or not right now? Like able meaning like, do I feel like I can
handle it?
Like put. And so it's been a little bit of like a, because now here I am and I actually feel really good in my body.
Right. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not as strong as I have been in the past, but.
And like, what has people's response to you been? Has that like affected how you think about yourself at all or throughout this experience? Because at one point you mentioned like different people's responses to the change. Because it was pretty drastic.
Yeah. And I think I've gotten a lot of different, like a lot of people will be like, whoa, you know, you look amazing or whatever. Because I think like the positivity of like just that
it's
inherent
such a
cultural
glorified
thing. Yes. But it's also very interesting to me because a lot of people know that I have been in a high stress time of life. And so in my mind, I've been worried about the loss because I'm like, oh shit, you know, that's an indication of like how freaking stressed I am. But at the same time, then I get all this like positive feedback.
I read this article one time and this woman was talking about the same type of thing, but she was going through cancer treatment.
Yes.
So she lost a ton of weight. So she went on vacation somewhere and all these people were commenting on what she physically looked like because she had dropped a ton of weight in a short period of time. And so she was talking about commenting on like, people are telling me I look super good. Yeah. But for her, it was like she's sick in the middle of cancer treatment. And she was like, isn't that interesting that this is what people value? And so
well, and also
fascinating.
That connection between thinness and healthiness, which is completely not true.
Exactly.
It's like, and the idea that someone who is a little heavier might be way healthier than someone who's skinny, but people don't even consider that.
If someone's a skinny fat person, where their like blood profiles or cholesterol is not awesome. But they're thin, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, or it's not even on the radar.
That's all so fascinating.
It's fascinating.
It's so like even thinking about that connection of weight and health. You know, it's like here I am, like so high stress, and yet I'm thin.
So people are like, wow,
yeah.
But hopefully this is okay to say. Obviously, we can edit it out. But like you had the reaction. I remember you saying at one point someone said you're too skinny. Like this is not what you're doing right now. Is not working.
Yes.
It's not healthy.
Yes.
So that was like an interesting take on like one person. I remember you relaying like saying like this is not. A healthy situation.
And I would say the people, you know, like there are a few people and definitely the people who like family, you know, it's been like, nope, like, you know, it is important for you to eat more. You need to eat more. And friends who like know closer detail or whatever, you know, but it's just been very interesting. I also think like one person, it's not been like, hey, you know, you're too thin now. Like you need to give yourself calories so that you can keep going here. Or, you know, whatever. Not that it's like deathly, but.
Well, it's like that idea of nourishment.
Yes,
like literally nourishing your body and giving it the fuel so that you can do what you need to do and to be showing up in the world in the way that you need to.
Yeah. But so one person was like, it was just like 2 smoothies a day. Or like, you know, just try it. Just that's the goal, you know, or
pop some
maybe
peanut butter in there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it wasn't like you need to have your 3 meals a day and they need to be balanced and very little carb.
What's
so
great
which
about
is where
that
I
is
usually
like
go.
Meeting you where you're at and saying like, okay, let's just make this the bare minimum. Yeah. Like make this the goal.
Yes.
Of like get some nourishment in you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be some crazy freaking diet that I'm like doing my food journal and I'm having accountability every day or, you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
What's interesting, the thinness and the healthy stuff, like with that whole thing, because that, you guys know the story of when this person commented and like, I think I had some sort of dress on and I had a pooch in the dress and the woman asked me if I was pregnant. And this is when I was like 2 months out of my 100K.
Story.
Yeah, they heard all about the story.
Oh,
and
well, I have my own experience with
and
her.
I was super, super pissed. But then I was like, I could literally put you on my back and run up the side of a hill.
Yeah.
And so like you're
A hill, a mountain.
Yeah, a mountain. And
Yeah.
so it's super interesting, like that whole perception.
Yes.
Because like I feel good in my body, but like it's not like I'm small. It's not like I'm like huge or large, like,
Right.
you know, but like I am like a solid person. And so
Yeah.
it's just really interesting people's perception of that.
So I just think the whole connection with weight and health, definitely interesting. And what about that whole idea with like how we tap into the intuitive and being still or
Well, can I say one more thing
Oh, yeah.
about the intuitive eating? 2 more things about the intuitive eating thing. So two more things about the intuitive eating is this first part of like doing the research and figuring out what it's all about is this idea of the deprogramming, like deprogramming all this language. I mean, I remember my mom like having a candy and like portioning it out like she was like the Pied Piper and we're at her feet like more candy,
Yeah.
please. Oh, and it was such a joyous like a chocolate and like we
Yes.
never had sweets in the house. And it was such a thing. And like the language she used around food, I internalized and took that on. And now it's like a deprogramming. And, you know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the way it was.
Mhm.
And now thinking about having a son and how I talk to him about food and, you know, like,
yes.
let's eat the healthy food first, you know, and not trying to stigmatize it or make it such a big deal. And
Right.
like, it's such a different way to consider the idea of food and how we relate that message of what this is to other people, and then they carry it on and learn that as how they relate to food. It's such a huge part of our existence as humans. And then I noticed too throughout this week, this has been a big food week for me.
Yeah.
The idea of the scarcity versus abundance. So it goes back to, you know,
Yes.
I used to, in between each of my diets, it would be like, oh, I'm off the rails. I'm going to indulge in this bad food. And
Right.
then it's like, then I go hog jaw on it. And, you know.
hell is that term?
That's
It's like the perfect, like, yeah, so I go like hog jaw on everything.
And I used to say to my family, fat girl needs to eat. What? Get fat girl needs to eat.
Get out the way.
Yeah.
Get out
Hog
the
jaws.
way.
Just say, go ahead.
Get out the
Keep
way.
going.
We're going hog jaw here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hog
What was
jaw.
I saying?
Something about a hog jaw.
Oh, yeah. Like in between the, like being good.
Yeah,
These
yeah, yeah.
bookends of being good
Oh,
and like
sure.
going hog jaw in between.
Yeah.
Eating all the things. So it's like this scarcity versus the abundance thing. And so like what this intuitive eating, you know, what I've been finding out is this idea of after a couple weeks of, you know, letting yourself go hog jaw and whatever the hell you want, basically, and starting this process of deprogramming that you start to realize like no one's going to take this food away.
Yeah.
Right.
I can have just the amount I need,
Yeah.
not too much, not too little, so that I feel full. I don't feel sick. I don't feel bloated.
Right.
I'm going to have enough nourishment. I'm going to have the food that feels good in my body and that I want, and not feel like it's going to leave or that I'm going to start the next diet.
Yeah.
It's
Go ahead.
No, it's just, so I'm gonna go back to training, but with that, like whenever I'm training and have done like series of long runs, like I'll eat a Chipotle burrito like after it, and I'll be full for like 2 or 3 hours. But
You were gonna say
it's
2 or 3 days.
No, but when
Yeah.
I'm not training, and that thing will make me like if I eat that for lunch, I will be full to the entire next
Yeah.
day, and I get so full, and so like that is just. I think when I'm running, it like helps me to figure out how to intuitively eat because
Yeah,
like I'll
you're
get
so
so
in your body.
hungry. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But just as a side note.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole bunch of things in the last few episodes or I don't know, this season that I think really tie in. It's like the, bar 3 practice of going to exercise not to change your body, but just to accept and love your body. And then how that ties into intuitive eating and how it's like, this isn't about like changing our bodies to get to that number or count those calories. This is about listening to your body and understanding its needs and respecting those needs and ultimately accepting the body.
Yeah.
Well, and like there's such a kindness in that approach.
Compassionate,
Yeah, like that's what I can't get over with like, you know, with talking to Sadie and talking with Katie and like the connection to body and the connection to food and like that gut feeling of like your body and being okay with it. And how do we get to that place mentally? It's like such a kind way to approach it. And I was thinking about a conversation that I had with someone close to me and, you know, we have very different views on the world. And she was saying, well, what do you mean? You just accept everyone for the way they are? And I was like, well, yeah, like what's
you can't control it.
Alternative? Well, if there's no rules, then everything goes crazy. And so there's that fear of like, if I don't constrain it, if I don't contain it, it's going to be balls out, like no option but for things to go
awry.
Chaotic.
Yeah. Like the option is we either put rules on it and constrain it and make it, try to force it into this box, or we accept it and then what?
Right. And so in terms of the body and eating with that, it's
very similar. The idea of like, what would happen? Like there's a fear of like, if I accept my body just the way it is, the result of that and what that means, I'm really fired up about this.
No,
you are. It's good.
Yeah.
Is that I might have a body that has traditionally been something that might end up being something that I would traditionally view as not acceptable.
But this is exactly so this is what you're like the theme of the underlying theme or what you're talking about is like this is what gets people to like these are the people that I work with to get people to the next level. Like everyone thinks that we need that critical voice to like get us there and to like belittle us and berate us, and that's the thing that like that's how I got so successful. It doesn't work, and so like we have to like befriend that part of us. But then how do we accept all of the parts, and then ultimately like the self-love part that we keep on talking about is the thing that like allows you to do that. So you're in a place where you can be like self-loving and like, hey, I'm finally ready to look at this intuitive eating and like, what is this about? Because you've talked several times about like that your body and food is like the last frontier of the things that you need to explore within your healing.
Yeah.
And so this is like, it sounds like that you're shedding like this critical voice, and what would it look like? And it is terrifying, like for everybody. I had to go through this process of like, if I let this go, like how am I going to get things done, or how am I going to accomplish things? And actually, when I have like checked that like been really curious about this critical part, then I've gotten so much more done because I'm way happier and joyful doing it. Not that I'm perfect at it, but like it's an entirely different experience in the world. But it is scary, like to like let go of that.
Well, to
grasp.
be like, what? We don't have any rules?
Yes.
I just accept myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? You mean I'm not like constantly trying to change myself and fix myself?
Yeah, like I don't hate my body.
Look different. Yeah.
But you know what is also interesting? This has been a very big week.
I know. Dang.
Holy cow. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Hey, high fives for self-growth and reflection.
Okay, Letty.
Anna.
Yeah.
Up. Okay. All right.
Oh, did you hear that?
Anna?
Did you hear that?
Did you hear that? Okay. Anna and I, as a side, I've been trying to teach Anna how to do the perfect high five.
To Amy's
Amy hates it
It's
so
just me.
It's so much time. It's a time suck. The stupid high fiving.
Well, that's right. Coordination. We're trying.
We're trying. I'm working on my coordination.
We're going to put a video on that.
So here's one other thing. Anna, finish your thought.
What was I saying?
Well, that's a good question before we got into the high fives.
Go.
What was it?
You said two things. You were on the second one.
You were saying it's a really big week.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I've had this fear of like, I'm just going to go, hog jaw on like a lot of pizza and
I
ice
love
cream.
That you've adopted the hog jaw. So
focus.
My sisters are going to laugh so hard.
So it's like donuts, pizza, ice cream, all the things that I love, right? And like I wish those were health foods. Unfortunately, they're not, right? So like
nobody's.
But you don't need to eat a lot lot of them.
Right. Yeah.
But go on.
But like, I found myself craving Brussels sprouts.
Yes.
So I like roasted those motherfuckers.
Yes.
Put some oil, salt. They were so good.
So good.
And
I love that.
Yes.
so like I was like, my body wants some Brussels sprouts. Okay.
Yeah.
You get some Brussels sprouts, buddy.
And I think
It was great. And
That's
I was
right.
like,
yeah.
I felt hopeful.
Yeah.
Very. I think the thing that is also interesting, I think it was Richard Rohr was brought up with the non-dualistic thing,
I love me
which
some Richard
seems
Rohr.
to also be another theme of this whole thing where like there can be duality. You can have the pizza one day and Brussels sprouts the next day.
Or
Yeah.
the same day.
Or the same
Or
day.
the same meal. Yes.
Amy, let's talk about your irritation with us right now. We need to address that because that is very much in the room.
with us right now.
Uh-huh.
I just feel like we're trying to go. No, we're good.
It's the high-fiving, right?
It's all the high fiving is getting
Over the
old.
edge. well,
Such
I love you. I
Such a
love
positive
you.
thing went so bad.
it did go terribly south.
So like an hour of high five training is too much for Amy. High five training.
Richard Rohr.
And now here we are
non-dualistic.
talking about high fiving again.
Okay. Non-dualistic.
Richard Rohr, I think it's very interesting in this whole idea of acceptance and, intuitiveness and accepting your body.
Yeah.
And then also the dualistic or, having the and.
If we could have Richard Rohr on this podcast for next season, I would be. that would.
How about
be-
when we
Invite
do
him.
have
When
him?
we do have.
Oh,
Ri-
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He's so good.
Speak
Do you want
into
a high five?
existence.
Yeah, I do.
No!
We're both like, yes. Aaron, high five.
That's good. That was a bad one. Okay, focus.
Poor
All right.
Amy.
Oh, come on.
Oh, poor
Yeah, stop
Amy.
that right now. Okay.
So,
We felt really bad for you having to endure this high fiveness.
I did not feel bad at all.
No,
I'll tell you that much.
That was
I did not
sarcasm.
feel bad at
That
all.
was sarcasm.
All right, yeah.
Sarcasm? Sarcasm.
Sarcasm with an A.
Sarcasm.
Okay. Whoop, whoop.
thank you.
Okay, so
You're
All
on my so I think challenge for the week. What do y'all say?
I think that's. Can we talk about the stillness and quiet?
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yes.
Go for it.
Right. So the stillness and being quiet, right?
Yes.
Because that's how you get in touch with your intuitive parts of you and into your body. So I'm curious about how you all do that.
well,
How do you stop that? Because I don't think stillness necessarily. I was on a training weekend in the desert this past weekend. And so we were talking about on the run, like, do you need to be still to, like, physically still to be in stillness? And really, I think it's just when you can, the outside noise is calmed down.
Mhm.
And so I'm just curious about what your thoughts about that.
yeah, so I can't help but think about meditation with this, obviously.
Yeah.
So I am such, along with my ambitious back sleeping wannabe, I am a very ambitious meditator wannabe. I have downloaded literally every single app. I have such high standards for myself on what meditation means and what that looks like and
What does it mean?
counts as meditation.
What does it mean?
So that would mean dedicated time. This is in my very
In Anna's world?
high standards for meditation of like dedicated time where I'm only focusing on meditating and doing it very well and not distracted. And
That's the whole thing with it.
Huh?
To embrace the distraction. Because
Well, I know.
That's what your brain's supposed to do.
Well, yeah. So this is what I'm saying, like for it to count.
So what do you do
Well,
to be still?
so
It's
not much.
good
That's
focus.
okay.
This is
That's
a good focus, Amy.
question.
That's honest.
Yeah, like I try,
Yeah.
but and this is the thing, I've been trying to broaden my definition of
Yeah.
what meditation means,
Yeah.
honestly. So it's like, okay, I can take 5 deep breaths and I'm going to say
Yeah.
that counts.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
this whole idea of it counting
Yeah.
as meditation. Like,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, meditation is so good. I have to do it this way.
Yeah.
It has to look this certain way. But like for me, we all have busy lives. But if I can just say, I'm going to just be present and do 5 deep breaths or even 3 deep breaths or 1.
Yeah.
Or, I really like that idea, or the idea of going out in nature is something
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
like, and walking, and this idea
Yeah.
of a walking meditation. But like for me, like sitting down and making it something I have to do just it is not working. It doesn't work. And like when I try to attempt to do that, I fail.
I wonder
unquote,
what it would
you know?
be like if you apply the intuitive eating to your meditation principles.
Damn, yo.
Oh, dang.
Damn, yo, you get a high five.
Just let it go. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Or like don't have so many rules around it.
That's so tell me more about that.
Well,
Which is fascinating that you have rules around all these things when we do the 4 tendencies and you're a rebel.
Mhm.
And that's like no internal and external expectations. And then when you set all these expectations up, and that's not naturally how your system functions.
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Says the therapist.
Yeah.
So,
Got to take that one into consideration for real.
I'm going to have to think about that one.
So lately, I've been walking my dog and trying to really walk with like 1, 2, 1, 2. So
Yeah.
I count my steps, which is something that's like not abnormal. I had that like habit in the past of just like counting how many steps, especially when I run. Like I just count the steps. But when I've been walking the dog, and like my therapist has said bilateral movement is so
Yes.
good. And maybe you can speak more
That's
to
like
that.
that EMDR
MDR,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Anna spoke to it.
EMDR, bilateral, basically moving like one side of your body and then another.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Yeah.
somehow having contact
Yes.
with one side of your body and then another.
Yep.
And that does something to your
Yes.
thought patterns?
It just desensits, it kind of moves the stuff through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just been doing that. So walking and 1, 2, 1, 2. That's
Yeah.
one thing I've been
Great.
doing. The other thing is,
Which is interesting because when in a lot of meditations, they have you like breathe in on the 1 and
Yes.
exhale on the 2 and breathe in on the 1 and exhale on the 2.
so I always have an issue with any kind of meditation around how to breathe
Yes.
or like the count, inhale 1, 2, 3, exhale. I fixate so much on the counting and then I end up, my breath is completely off. Like I'll be like, oh shit, I got to hold it longer, and it's so for me.
I was walking with someone and we were talking about that and they were like, they talk about breathing in for 4 and I'm really a 3 breath kind of gal.
So that's
And
kind of that's me. It's
what
like
I do.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like
I
whenever
end up hyperventilating when I do it. I'm like,
yeah, you don't want to do that. That's not good for meditation.
no.
So that's one thing, the walking and counting my steps. The other thing is I got this journal in this Juju Be Gone package and it's the I Am journal.
Oh, I was wondering where you
It's
got that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And it's guided journaling,
Oh,
really.
cool.
But it focuses on what your burning desire is, what your feelings are when you have it, and then everything is in the present tense. So like, I am strong. I am financially well off. Whatever your goals are or whatever you want in your life, you write your affirmation, basically. And then you do it in the morning and at night. And so far, gotta say, I'm not super far along, but I am doing it and it's helping because I think for me, like, there's so much internally that I want to feel or that like where I want to be. And I'm just getting through stuff right now. So to have that like beacon of light to focus has been really helpful.
That's awesome.
The other thing is at night, I would say probably 5 out of 7 nights a week, I listen to Buddhify.
Oh, okay.
So
and that's an app, right?
It's an app. It's a guided meditation, and I listen to it as I fall asleep.
Great.
And I
Damn,
love
you're
it.
healthy.
Like
super healthy.
No. No, I mean, I am not.
I say
perfect.
that jokingly, but I am just, I'm for real.
I'm
think
not,
that.
but I really feel like it's not. It's like there's no perfection ever.
Yeah.
Right.
So these are things that like I actually really need to do because if I don't, I will not be in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's some of these things I am seeing in my own life today that they are making a tremendous impact.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
What about you? How do you be still? You said running.
Well, running in the woods, but I will not listen to anything in my ear
You're still
holes.
by moving.
Yeah, but I'm still moving, right? But
Mhm.
then I also will just sit and the first thing I do when I wake up is just drink a cup of coffee and just kind of like let the day come in. I'll meditate and that helps a lot. And then when I do yoga, that helps to like get into just get me into my body.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll realize I've been going so quickly, and then I'll go to a yoga class, and then I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a baby giraffe. Like I'm being born, like I can finally feel my arms and legs, which is crazy. But mostly like when I was going on this camping trip, we cooked all the food. Well, I cooked all the food beforehand, and I was cooking for like 3 or 4 hours, and I did not listen to anything the entire time. And it was just like a good like wash for my system when you just need a break from outside stuff, which is, I think we get assaulted on the daily with that. But it's when I can do these practices more often, then it's just like, it just opens up whatever.
Well, and I mean, just what we've been talking about, it reminds me of what Sadie said about the constant remembering. It's like, it's so easy to forget. And then it's like, oh yeah, that was so helpful.
And I know when I'm running, actually, this is going to make me sound such like a weirdo, but I'm going to go with it right now. Sometimes I'm running, and it'll be really early in the mornings, and so I'll see these deer. And then I can tell how peaceful. I don't know if it's actually happening, but this is what I like to tell myself. And I can tell how peaceful I am if they just like look up and let me go along the way.
They don't run away?
Yes.
Wow.
Where I'm like, oh, okay.
They're like, bitch, I'm out.
You're a little bit creepy today. Yeah, no, but when I can move past them without them running away, then I'm like, okay,
so
all right,
nice.
okay.
Yeah.
So
you are one.
That's
You
right.
and the deer.
That's right. Yep. Bambi and I.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Wow.
One thing I do have to say is that there are definitely, like Don DePani says, like, you know, everywhere we are hearing about meditation, you can meditate anywhere. You can meditate when you're gardening. His take on that is like, no.
You can be mindful.
Well, but even that, like he might have, I don't know. But his whole thing is like, meditation is sitting down, closing your eyes, and being still.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting to like think about mindful versus meditation.
This, at some point, which we don't have time today.
Do you want to say what this is?
I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I want to talk about the Enneagram because it's super interesting because that's come up repeatedly.
It has.
And have you two done it?
I know.
Okay. So
I haven't.
I'm a 3, I think.
So wait, so the Enneagram.
Yeah.
When did this become a thing?
It's real old. I don't know the history on it, but it's like, I don't want to say thousands, but it could be, or hundreds at least.
Because it is, I feel like
because it's
most
so
of our
informative.
Guests, okay.
It's so informative. I have books on it. But anyway, so we should do some sort of
follow up
on that because it's fascinating just how it's just interesting.
Yeah.
So mine's I keep getting 3, 9, and 7 in different orders.
I'm a 7.
So let's table it maybe and we can like put it on. We can talk about it more.
Yeah,
and
that's
I should
totally.
probably do it. I
Yeah,
guess.
you should do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you the books.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to read about it.
I have books at home.
Awesome.
Cool.
So
you know what we did not talk about yet?
What?
The question that we asked Katie.
What was the question we asked Katie?
Did we answer that during her episode?
What was it?
To kidnap you, what would need to be written on the white van to kidnap you?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that's a tough question.
What would have to be written on the van?
What do you think, Anna? What
She
would be
said
written
free
on
coffee,
your
and I
white
thought that was a
van?
good idea.
Donuts.
Oh,
I love me some pastries.
donuts. You'd be done.
Hashtag van life. I would get in there in a second.
Maybe
or
maybe
like
coffee.
or
like
like
they're
butter-
selling
That's
coffee.
what she said.
Ooh,
Coffee.
oh,
Yeah.
really?
Like
Oh.
buttercream cake. Buttercream ice frosting and cake.
Your eyes just lit up.
Yeah, definitely.
Buttercream.
Yeah, I love me some buttercream.
Christmas morning when you still believe in Santa.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Aaron, anything to get in that van?
Garmin watch.
Yeah. Free Garmin watches. I'm in.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So do we have any nuggets for the week?
I think pay attention to your body or your food rules.
Yeah.
Or like good food, bad food?
Yeah, like
your
notice
labels?
what you're telling yourself about foods.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Do
how
you guys like
intuitive,
that?
how
I like it.
intuitive you are when you're eating. Is
Yeah.
like just with those principles. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
We'll
Trying
post
to,
them
like-
in the show notes.
Yeah, like
All
trying to like
right.
get that connection of your body and your food.
All right,
let's
everybody.
land this plane. Land the plane.
Landing.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye.
We have a great new way for you to support the show. If you love what we're doing, go hit up the Less Alone podcast swag shop. We got so much awesome stuff. All the proceeds go to supporting the show so we can create more awesome content for you. So what stuff did you guys get?
I got the black sweatshirt and the green trucker hat.
I got a
fucking
white
cute.
hoodie and a coffee cup.
Oh, yeah. I got the hat and a shirt. It's so cute. So go there, lessalonepodcast.com, hit swag shop, and get yourself hooked up.
Take a picture and tag us on Instagram or any other social media, and we'll
We'll repost it.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. You can find more about this episode and a way to connect to the community at lessalonepodcast.com. And if you like us, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave a review. It helps other people find us and could be just what they need.